The easiest, laziest way to be more productive. So you may be wondering why I'm doing this type of video, and there are two reasons for it. The first one is that I am branching out into general wellness a little bit more because there's only so much you can talk about when it comes to nutrition after a while. And also, I do think that being productive does pertain to nutrition in the sense that I get so many of my clients telling me that they don't have time for healthy eating or like their schedules are too busy. So I did make a video on healthy eating when busy that you can check out right here. And there are a ton of videos on how to be more productive with like normal tips, but I feel that these videos can be a little bit toxic sometimes, and it's always about like maxing out productivity levels all the time and having like zero downtime and all of that. And that's not what this video is going to be about at all. I totally think that you can be productive when you're lazy. Actually, most of these tips will work for people who are lazy, because for me, productivity is different than busyness, and I feel like a lot of people get them confused. So it's very important to understand this difference between productivity and busyness. Productivity is about achieving meaningful outcomes efficiently and getting results that are valuable, whereas busyness is a measure of like how much activity is taking place regardless of if the outcome is very productive or like valuable. So productivity is a measure of efficiency and busyness is a measure of activity. So I feel like this is important to understand, because what is toxic to me is the like busyness thing where you have to fill up your days with as many activities as possible and get like as many things done as possible, and that for me is what can lead to burnout and exhaustion. But if you actually look at productivity, it's about actually doing things in less time, so you then have more time to do things that you like, to do like pure leisure, not like a side hustle or not like a hobby that's gonna stress you out, just something that is fun for you. And the more productive you are, the more time you have to do these things. Isn't it more fun to be really productive for a few hours and then have fun for the rest of those hours, rather than being busy for the entire day and then not having any time for fun? Here's how to do that. So a very important thing to do is you need to find your productivity style, because you can watch as many productivity videos as you want, you can read as many self-help productivity books as you want. If you're not reading things or like getting information that is related to your own style of productivity, then it's not gonna work and you're gonna feel like you're lazy, like you're a failure. But it's just because these tips aren't tailored to you. I'm gonna leave a link to a test that I took to give me like my type of productivity style. I know that there are like actual paying tests that you can do that go really more into depth with this, but I think that this one, the one I took, is a pretty good one to start. And also I feel like you know naturally what your productivity style is and what works for you and what doesn't work. And in this test that I took, here are like the different productivity styles, and I'm personally a visualizer. So once you know what your productivity style is and what works for you and what doesn't, you need to work within your natural tendencies. Work alongside them, not against them. For instance, for the longest time, I would always try to force myself to time block, because that's all you hear right now. You have to time block, you have to write down like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this task from like 8 to 10 and focus only on that task. Like you always hear, if you're like switching tasks, then it's not gonna work for you. And so I tried doing that. It did not work for me. I was so unproductive when I was doing that. And that's because I actually work better when I'm multitasking, not like doing things like exactly at the same time, but I have to be working on multiple tasks in a short period of time. Like I have to switch tasks pretty quickly, or else I'm just gonna like get bored of one task. And for me, whenever I switch tasks, it actually makes me more productive, whereas for a lot of people who use like the time block method, whenever they switch tasks, it takes them like a long time to get into them. So it's all about understanding what works for you and what doesn't, and please don't go against your natural tendencies. Just because like 90% of the population has something that works for them doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work for you. And it's also important to take it into account your working style. Like, do you work better mornings or nights, or in groups or not? And for instance, for me, I work way better at nights. And again, after months and years of trying to be more productive in the morning, because I heard that that's when you could like get the most efficient work done and all of that, I just found that it did not work for me, and I would just be stressed, and because I wasn't being efficient, I wasn't being productive. Whereas at night, it totally worked out for me. And obviously I work from home, so this is it's easier to tailor my schedule, but I do think that, well, now I know that a lot of people also work from home at least some days. So at least on the days that you do work from home, make sure that you are working like with your natural tendencies. And even on the days where you don't work from home, productivity doesn't have to be just about work. It can be about many other things. So make sure that you're taking into account your natural tendencies with like all aspects of your life. Remember that sometimes less is more. So with this idea of trying to be productive but not necessarily busy, it's important that you focus on, let's say, like 1 to 3 tasks in your day that are going to be like major things, in the sense that the outcome is going to be important to you, of like high value, high impact. And if you've done like only these things in that day, then it's going to be a good day, like regardless of anything else. So make sure that every day you find these tasks and you do them like straight away, like as quickly as you can. And so that way you're going to get this sense of being productive, and then you can be proud of yourself for achieving that. And you don't necessarily need to busy up your schedule with a bunch of meaningless things. You can have more time to do other things. It's better to be proud of few things that you have done well, efficiently, productively, and that have like high value, than to be dissatisfied because you gave yourself a list of like 35 pointless things and you didn't achieve everything that you wanted. I think it's also good for mindset to do this because it helps you remember that each day counts, and making sure that you're moving forward every day can be very helpful in feeling productive. Again, even if you're not that busy, even if you're not doing that many things. You also have to remember Parkinsons Law. Parkinsons Law is the principle that says that work expands to take up the time that is like allocated for its completion. In other words, the amount of time it takes for you to complete a task will depend, varying on the amount of time that you can actually have. And so people tend to fill up their time with work, even if that work is not necessary or not productive. So personally, from this law, I get 2 things that help with being more productive, like the easy way. Number 1 is that I don't always need more time to do my work stuff. I can give myself less time to do it and I'm still gonna get it done. It's just gonna take less time. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be done in a way that is not as good. It just means that I'm not going to be filling up the time with like useless things or like daydreaming or doodling or any of that. I'm going to be like 100% focused because I have less time to do that. And that means that I can also plan for times to do like more leisure activities and see my friends and do things that I actually like, because it's not going to change if I have like more or less time. I'm still going to get my work done. Now, I'm not saying to give yourself 10 minutes to do tasks that usually take like multiple weeks. Of course not. Use this wisely, but it's definitely a way for you to kind of condense your workload and then make sure that you have leisure time as well. The second thing I get from this law, and this is maybe personal, but for me, I know that if I want to get something done, then I have to create a sense of urgency if I want it to get it done like productively. If not, if I have like multiple weeks or months to do something, I'm just gonna take my sweet time. But if I know that the deadline is like tomorrow, then I'm really going to be very efficient and productive. So what I suggest that you do is you schedule anything like meetings or like appointments, things that have specific set times that you can't push back. Schedule them in a way that's going to create like mini deadlines for yourself. For instance, for me, I realized that when I have like consultations scheduled and if I'm filming a video beforehand, I get it out like much more productively, much more quickly, and it's much more efficient because I have to be finished by the time the consultation starts. And again, I'm not sacrificing the quality, I'm just sacrificing all of the fluff that I'm doing that I don't need to be doing, but I'm doing it because I have the time. Remember that doing things you enjoy is being productive. You need to stop having a hierarchy of activities depending on how productive you feel when you are doing them. Make sure that you find things that you actually enjoy doing and that you make sure that they are a part of your routine. This is so important because if these activities aren't included in your schedule, they are then going to become dependent, like conditional on how productive you were during the day. And so either you're going to end up not doing them because you like don't have time, or you're gonna end up doing them but feeling guilty while you do them because you feel that you weren't productive enough to deserve doing like your leisure activities. So you can see how that's a vicious cycle, because then if you never do these activities, you're never gonna really recharge and get energy and fun into your life, and so you're not going to have the energy available to be more productive, and so you're just, you know, it's like a vicious cycle. Don't do that. Make sure that your leisure activities are part of your schedule just like anything else, and that's part of the difference between the French lifestyle and like the American lifestyle, is that French people will take the time to do their leisure activities just for leisure, not side hustles that are gonna make them money necessarily or anything like that. They are gonna spend like an hour after work like having a drink with a friend, like having a coffee with a friend, or reading their book in the park on the weekend, or just doing things that are just for the pleasure of doing it and not because they want a specific outcome that is then going to make them more productive or make them money or whatever. I did a whole video on the art of French living that you can check out here. I think it can be really interesting if you want to know a little bit about slow living and how the French do that while still having moments where they are productive. And so make sure that you find a hobby that you actually like doing, that is a break from the rest, because if you find a hobby just because you want to improve a certain skill or again like make money or whatever, you're not going to enjoy doing it, you're never really going to do it, it's going to feel like a punishment. So I mean, you can have those too if you want, but make sure that you have a few hobbies that you do just because you genuinely like them. And yes, watching Netflix can be one of these things. Stop trying to do more work during your breaks from work. It's time for another law, and that is, remember Hofstaders Law. It always takes longer to do something than you expect, even when you're taking into account Hofstaders Law. So this law kind of highlights the fact that people tend to underestimate the time that a project is going to take them. Usually they don't take it into account like any exterior factors that can kind of mess up with their timeline. But another important thing to get from this law is that predicting the future is complicated, and you never know how much time you're actually going to need to do something. And so there's no need in putting like so much pressure on yourself to be like, okay, I need to be this productive, I need to have done this in like this amount of time, because it's not really going to go according to plan, even if you take that into account. And also if you take it too much into account, if you're like, yeah, so I'm going to plan for this extra thing and this extra thing and this extra thing, still not going to work. Like we said before, there's Parkinson's Law, so you're just going to fill up all this time with like unnecessary things, and on top of that, Hofstaders Law, and so unexpected things are going to arise and you're going to end up taking even more time to do something. So the way that I use this law to help me with productivity is that I always have like a general idea of how long something is going to take me, but I'm never too strict on it, and I really try to accept, embrace if something happens that is not planned, which is hard for me because that's not my personality. But I really try to tell myself like, this is all part of the process, it's normal, and you're still gonna get it done, and it's no issue, it's not an issue. And finally, remember that being unproductive sometimes is totally okay. You knew this one was coming. It's like the exception that confirms the rule, or the like, if everybody likes you, then nobody likes you. If you're never unproductive, then you're not really ever productive. Remember to find balance. That is the crucial element in this, and I hope that this video showed you that there are ways for you to be more productive without burning you out, in a way that can be like easy, in a way that follows your natural tendency, so you don't have to go like against yourself and like work against yourself, and in a way that involves activities that you also enjoy, and taking into account the fact that you don't control everything, and it's super important to distance yourself from outcomes that are just going to be stressful because you're not productive enough, all of that. So stop your search for constant productivity. I also recommend that you read this book, 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. It's really good, and it really shows you that just being like busy and always having something to do and trying to be more efficient is not the way to live. So learn to be more productive so you can do more things in a shorter amount of time, and then make sure that you have huge blocks for you to actually enjoy your life. That's it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like it and subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.